sort of leadership series. I was, of course, student body president. You guys know all that stuff. But one of the things I wish I had more time for, if I think of my regrets this year, it would be more leadership training for you guys. But as you know, the first year wearing 17 hats, it's hard to do that. And so my hope is that we will have these kinds of videos. So whether or not you're at LifeSTEM, even if you know somebody who has no affiliation with LifeSTEM, just you guys, so you know, we're gonna make videos for your demographic to train you guys in leadership. Because again, you guys are part of the hope for this nation. If you guys ever go to a typical college, you will understand more of what I'm trying to get at. It's hard to explain it to you now until you get there and realize that the bar is on the floor, right? It's low, and you guys are the ones who have to raise the bar. So that's number one. Number two, if I ever compare myself to somebody else, let's say there's somebody else here who wasn't doing their homework or whatever, it's like, that's not a good comparison, because ultimately comparing yourself to somebody else actually lowers the bar for you. So you always want to be asking yourself every day, how can I do better? How can I improve? And that's the idea. And I'll tell all of you here, including myself, we all have room for growth. So this is an opportunity, and I'm going to watch this myself, to help me grow as a leader, to help you grow as a leader. But just so you guys know, your potential is off the charts, but you might not have tapped into it. And that's what I want to encourage you to keep in mind, okay? You guys are doing a great job, but this will keep helping you be the best leader you can be, okay? Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Tarfa. Okay, I'm going to start the clock here, make sure I don't talk for an hour. But yeah, good afternoon. My name is Peter Louders. I'm a college student over at Concordia College, and I'm about to get ready to graduate. I also help around here a little bit. You'll see me down in the gym sometimes helping out or just doing random tasks for Mr. Tarfa. And so he asked me to give a little talk on leadership. And so you might be wondering, okay, what does this guy have to teach us about leadership? He's not some wise old person with a ton of life experience. And you're right, I'm not. I'm a college student. But you can be a leader at any stage in life. You guys are leaders right now at school, whether you believe that or know that or not, you are as cohort leaders. You can be a leader in college, you can be a leader at home, you can be a leader in many, many different ways. And so I've had some leadership experience. I'm not going to claim to be the ultimate source of knowledge on leadership because there's a lot of room to grow, but from some student ministry leadership experience and some leadership experience through the military, I've had a little bit of a taste of that, of team building and things like that. So today we're going to define what leadership is. We're going to talk about some of the aspects of leadership, and then we're going to say how that applies to you as high school students. Sound good? Cool. Okay, so first question for you guys is, what is a leader? How would you define leadership?
Someone who knows things.
Okay, that's a good thought.
Who's confident.
Confident, yeah, those are all attributes of a good leader.
They can solve problems.
Uh-huh.
They know how to take responsibility.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Can assign tasks.
Mm-hmm.
They're a servant.
Yeah,
Who work well under pressure.
that's good. Wow, I didn't expect you guys to just rattle them off.
They understand the people they're leading.
Yes, your people are a huge resource. Yeah, yeah. So actually, that was leadership right there, what you guys just did. I had a question, or you saw a need, you said, I'm going to take responsibility for that need, and then I'm going to encourage other people to do so. So my definition for leadership is the ability to persuade others to seek a defined objective, and then to encourage or persuade your people, the people that you work with, to follow suit with that. It's what binds a group together and motivates it towards its goal. So in other words, a leader is someone who sees a need, shows initiative, says, hey, this is going to be my responsibility to meet that need, and then it's going to take it on and organize people and motivate people to follow up with them. So put a team together and explain why they need to follow up with it. So what might some examples of this be? Can anybody think of an example of leadership?
The president.
Okay, how so?
That kind of has to lead the country.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the president leads, but also one of the president's biggest jobs is organizing a team of people around him or her to further the goals of the country. So that's a good example. Yeah. Any other ones? Maybe more practically.
Pastor.
Pastor is a leader, yeah. What about here at school? You guys are leaders? What does that look like?
Telling the kids to answer the questions and actually read the book.
Okay. Yeah, so an example of this, like seeing a need, showing initiative, and gathering people, could be like this is, I'm not saying this is true, this is just an example off the top of my head. Say you say, okay, I'm walking around LifeStem, I always seem to notice that the garbage in this particular room for some reason is constantly overflowing. And it's a problem because it smells bad and it affects my ability to learn because I'm constantly focused on the smell. So then you realize that problem, instead of just leaving it, you take initiative, say, okay, this is my problem now. And then you organize a team, so you communicate, you're like, I don't have the capacity to do this all myself. So I'm gonna organize a team of people, I'm gonna explain to them why this is a problem, get them behind me, and then organize, okay, I'll take care of it this day, you do it tomorrow, you do it the next day. And then you solve that need, so you motivate the people around you. So that's one example of what leadership can look like. It's a huge and broad field that can encompass a lot of different things. So that's the definition that we're going to use today, is the ability to persuade others to seek defined objectives enthusiastically, and it's what binds groups together and motivates them towards their goal. So some of the values of leadership, or some of the traits of leadership that we're going to talk about today, just to fly through this because we don't have a ton of time. But I highlighted some of what I think are the most important traits of leadership. So this is personally what I think, and if you strive for these will boost your leadership capabilities. So the first one is under the category of values. So for me, one of the most important traits of a leader is integrity. What does integrity mean? Anybody have a definition?
Like having a moral backbone.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Anybody else?
There's an element of honesty.
Yeah, like it leads to honesty. Yeah, I would define it as doing the right thing regardless of who is looking. So why is integrity important to leadership? Well, actually, the Bible talks about this a little bit. So Proverbs 11:3 says, "The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by their duplicity." Duplicity means like contradiction or double standard, right? So if, take it back to that trash example. If I say, hey, this is a problem, we need to solve this, I get a whole team together, explain why we need to do it. But then when it's my turn to do it, I only do a half job, or I like shove the garbage into somebody else's garbage can or something like that. That's not acting in integrity. And people, your team will see that, and they'll say, hey, that person's not living up to that standard, so why on earth would I follow them if they're not going to follow the rules that they set for themselves? So that's an aspect of integrity. So integrity is really important as a leader, doing the right thing regardless of who's looking, because the people that you lead will follow the standard that you set. The next one is service before self. So leaders are not monarchs over their own people. They lead by first serving others. So you guys know that as leaders of your cohorts, right? So you don't get to, as a leader of the cohort, just say, you have to do all the cleaning today. Sorry, I'm the leader. I'm going to put my feet up. You go take care of that, right? No one would want to follow you if that's the case. That might work for a little bit if you're in a position of authority, but not for long, right? So leaders are in charge of leading by example. Say, hey, come with me. I'll show you how to do this. I'm going to lead by example, and then you follow me. So those are a couple of the value pieces that I think are most important. Your people are one of the most important resources in leadership, right? So the second whole half of what leadership is first explaining what the task is, getting people on board with your task, and then leading and organizing, showing them how to do it and motivating them to do it. Right, so ownership is a huge thing. What's ownership? You kind of were onto it earlier. You said taking responsibility. Can you talk more about that?
When you're like the leader of any group, like you're the one who's like in charge of it, and whatever comes out of it, whether good or bad, kind of falls on your shoulders.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. And that's what leaders are charged to do. So right, in your cohorts, you as leaders are responsible for the people on your team or on your group. Right? So if somebody makes a mistake, as a leader, you don't get to go, oh, it's that person, right? So if Mr. Tarfa comes and gives me a task, he says, let's clean all the tables up, organize the chairs in a certain way. It's my responsibility to build a team here and to get that done. And if somebody makes a mistake, or if that job doesn't get done, I don't get to say, hey, Liam didn't carry his end of the bargain. He moved the chairs when he wasn't supposed to, right? It's my responsibility as a leader because I'm in charge. I'm in the position of authority, right? So that's what ownership is. And sometimes the caveat on that is sometimes it's not even going to be your fault, right? Sometimes you're going to have to back your followers up even when they do something that is clearly their fault, but it's your responsibility. It falls on your shoulders. So that's a huge aspect, is how is this my fault at any point? How can I take ownership for what's going on? Another piece is communication. So you must be able to communicate your vision for a goal and what needs to be accomplished. So like that's a whole big part of why we do what we do. It's very different if I say, hey Liam, go clean the trash today. Sorry, I'm picking on you a little bit just because you're right here. Or hey, go pick up the trash today, right? That's just an order versus, hey, I need you to go get trash after school. I know it's kind of a drag, but the reason that we need to do this is because otherwise it'll be overflowing. Students won't be able to learn as well because there's a mess in the classroom and it won't get done. So which one of those is easier to get behind? The one with the why you need to do it instead of just the order of this is what you need to go do. So you need to be able to communicate what you need to do and why it needs to be done. And then the saying we kind of have is trust but verify. So if I tell you to do something, I say, courage, go do this. I'm going to trust now that you're going to do it, but I'm going to verify that it's going to get done. So I'm not just going to say, go do that and then expect for sure that it will be done. I'll trust but verify. So like, I trust you to do it, but I want to check in and make sure that it's getting done. So that's a thing too. Another piece, so this next category is striving for excellence. So these last three are important traits I also believe for leadership. First one is organized. An organized leader will lose the support of their people. I'm sure you guys have been on a team with somebody who like super disorganized. It's kind of hard to follow them when there's a lack of organization, right? Because they don't know what's going on, they don't know what's what. So first things first, before you get your people on the team, like you have to know what the task is, you have to get yourself organized and then put your whole team together and move forward with that. Another one, this is a big one, is taking initiative, right? Regardless of if you have a task that somebody tells you to do, seeing a need and stepping up and saying, hey, I'm gonna take ownership of that, I'm gonna take responsibility for that is a huge thing as a leader, right? If you see something, stepping up and be like, hey, this is my responsibility now, regardless of if somebody tells you to do it or not, right? So like even in class, right? When you get have you guys done group projects, right? Some? Well, if you get paired up with a group, it'll happen in college or whatever, it'll happen in the workforce. You'll have to work with other people, and there'll be a chance to say, usually it's like this, start with an awkward little silence of who's gonna step up and lead this thing. That's taking initiative, is saying, okay, there's no leader, I'm gonna step up and I'll lead us through this. It might mean more work for me, but I'll be the one that'll step up. So that's taking initiative. And then also resiliency, right? As a leader, you're gonna make mistakes, but you need to be able to bounce back from the mistakes. Right, so not making the same mistake twice is something that you could strive for, right? So, hey, I made this mistake, that's okay, I'm gonna bounce back and we'll learn from it. So, I'm running out of time, but those are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 traits of leadership that I think are some of the most important. So, how does this apply to you all as high school students, right? So you're like, okay, well, I'm not the president, right? I'm not the administrator of a school. There are different levels of leadership, and you can be a leader in the classes that you're in the cohorts that you have, at home, at church, at school, whatever that looks like, you can step up and be a leader. So whoever practices these things right now will do them in college, will do them in work, or wherever you go next, right? So you can't just assume, hey, I know these, or once I'm the president, then I'll be a good leader. Or once I'm in a position of authority, then I'll be a good leader. You need to practice these traits right now. You need to say, what can I do right now in the position that I'm at where I can build on these so then when I get there, I will be a good leader. Because nobody steps into a position of authority and then just is all of a sudden a great leader. So there are 2 things you can control as well. These are attitude and effort. So there's a lot of things that can kind of go outside of the scheme of control that you have, but the amount of effort that you put in and your attitude towards it will influence the people around you. And those are 2 things that you can control. You can come to school every day and say, hey, like circumstances aren't the best today, I'm not feeling the best today, but I can control my attitude and my effort that I put in, right? So no matter what the circumstances are, those are 2 things that you can control, is how you're gonna come and how you're gonna work with your team, how you're gonna build others up and those sorts of things. So those are just a couple of ways that this applies to you. I'm already over time, so I'm going to kind of have to wrap it up. But what are some things that you guys what are some application steps that you can take from this? What do you think? How can we work on these things?
Just like within our cohorts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what might that look like?
Maybe like asking specific people certain questions.
Okay, yeah. and I don't need an answer right now because we just talked about this, but these are things that you can think on. Think of each one of these traits and say, how can I be working towards this? How can I, not comparing yourself to one another because everybody has different giftings and strengths in these areas. Well, like Mr. Tarfa said, how can I be better than I was yesterday in these specific areas, right? So if I recognize a lack of communication, how can I improve on that for the next day? How can I be better? So that's my piece. That's what I got. You guys have any questions on those things? Yes, no, maybe so. Hey, thank you.